number 16-7970.
WNXX Jackson, KNXX Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers, LA 21 12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos, and lots to do over the next couple of hours. Glenn West in his normal spot there at 1:30. Sharif Ishak will touch base with us at 2:30. Derek Carr has been not ruled out for the year, but the return is feeling a little bit unlikely. I'll talk about that in 15 minutes. We'll get to it with Sharif as well in hour number 2. LSU plays Stetson in basketball tonight. Stetson is not very good, but we're going to talk about him anyway at the top of hour number 2, straight up 2 o'clock. It's an 8 o'clock tip inside the PMAC tonight. Toys for Tots. If you bring a toy, $5 ticket at their PMAC. So looking for something to do, kiddos out of school potentially, and want to do something this evening, Stetson and LSU. That's an option. I'll talk about it coming up a little bit later. We'll start the same way we start each and every day, and that is with our Genesis Opening Drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Transfer portal continues to churn folks in and out. LSU secured a commitment, according to Sam Spiegelman of Rivals earlier today. Destin Hill, a New Orleans native, Edna Carr product, who was actually a senior in high school 3 years ago in 2021, has reportedly committed to LSU from Florida State. Now, it's an interesting story with Destin Hill because he was an elite prospect in that same class that had Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas and Chris Hilton and Jack Besh, and LSU brought in that class a couple other wide receivers that didn't end up panning out. But, I mean, it was a loaded crop in Louisiana, and he decided to commit to Florida State. But he didn't actually enroll and join the football team until 2023. And then when he did, he was a 21-year-old freshman. He played against LSU in that 2023 game, season opener over in Orlando. And played in 10 games as a 21-year-old true freshman. Then in spring ball last year, this year, but last season, he got hurt and he missed this entire year at Florida State with an injury. So you're talking about a 22, 23-year-old young man who has played 10 games of football in the last, what will be 4 years. So this is a guy that they bring in, a big-time speed guy, played with Aaron Anderson at Carr, and he's just an addition depth-wise into the room, but not a guy who's had a big impact on the football field in a substantial amount of time. But I wanted to take this time with Destin Hill committing to look at what LSU's wide receiver room looks like now, because you had a lot of concern with Kyron Lacey moving out, with C.J. Daniels kind of, to some, surprisingly entering the transfer portal. And so you're kind of looking around going, well, Lacey led you in yards with 866 this past year, and he scored 9 touchdowns. That was the leader for you as well. Mason Taylor was your second leader in terms of number of receptions. He's obviously moving on to the draft. And then C.J. Daniels was 4th on your team in receptions. Josh Williams was 5th, and he's moving on. So, you have a lot of production to replace from a pass-catching standpoint. You look at what you had coming back, and it looks like, as of right now, all of these guys are coming back. Aaron Anderson announced he'll return. He had 53 catches for you, had just under 800 yards, 5 touchdowns, which was second on the team, and we all think had a breakout year. Of course, the highlight was probably the 76-yarder he took to the house against Texas A&M, but he showed you that he can stretch the field a little bit, did that in the South Carolina game, and of course, he can work the slot. He's incredibly shifty and quick, and that's a guy who's got big-time playmaking potential. You saw it with the kickoff return for a touchdown a couple weeks ago. So that's a guy you bring back, and he's your most proven commodity catching the football. Xavier Thomas is what he is. He had 20 catches this year for 188 yards, had a couple touchdowns. You can get him involved in the passing game. Is he going to be a number one option? No. But is he explosive? Is he a guy that defensive coordinators have to account for when he's on the field, especially sideline to sideline? Yeah, and that's kind of his role here. We know Chris Hilton's story by now. Elite speed, saw it in the game against Oklahoma, 2 touchdowns. Maybe that's a guy that stays healthy and becomes a really productive player for you, but he hasn't necessarily proven that. And you got Kyle Parker coming off of an injury. You've got Jelani Watkins, who's probably the fastest guy on your team. I go back to my conversation with Dennis Shaver, LSU's track coach, every single Saturday on the pregame show. I talked to another head coach on campus for like 5 or 6 minutes, and Coach Shaver came on early in the season, and I point blank asked him, I was like, are Caden Durham and Jelani Watkins legitimately fast enough to run track at LSU? Not to run track in college, not to go over to Hammond and run track, not to run at McNeese, not to go run track at UTEP. Like, can they run track at LSU where y'all win national championships? And Dennis Shaver said, yes. Just point blank, yes. Jelani Watkins, huge speed. He's still in the fold. And then Kylan Billiot as well, who was a freshman on this team, did not get any playoff time. So that's 6 guys. Anderson, Xavier Thomas, Chris Hilton, Kyle Parker, Jelani Watkins, and Kylan Billiot. And truthfully, like, that's not nearly enough in terms of talent or depth. You had to go add in this transfer portal cycle, as well as the high school ranks. And in the high school ranks, you got involved with some of the best wide receivers in the country, and you came up short with those guys. So you end up with Teron Francis, you come up with Phillip Wright, and those are 2 in-state players that you feel like are talented, but you're not talking about DeCorian Moore. You're not talking about Khalik Lockett. You're not talking about Jamie French. Like, these are the elite 5-star guys you were in the mix for. You didn't get those guys, but you get a couple of in-state guys. And look, we've seen plenty of in-state wide receivers that weren't quite as heralded from South Louisiana show up and ball. So you bring them in. That's 2 more guys. And then you go to the transfer portal and you grab Berrien Brown and Destin Hill. Berrien Brown, big-time speed guy, kickoff return guy, pretty good size. Destin Hill, speed guy as well, but a guy that hasn't produced much in 4 years of football. So your numbers are good now. That's a total of 10 guys with your 6 returners, 2 portals, 2 transfers. 10 wide receivers is enough. I still think they're 1 guy short, and I think that guy is Nick Anderson. You bring Nick Anderson into this fold, and I think that other guys start to fall into place. I think you bring Nick Anderson in as the most proven SEC playmaking big body on your roster. He had 10 touchdowns at Oklahoma as a freshman. That set the Oklahoma record. And he was hurt all this year after week 2, so we didn't see his sophomore campaign. But by all accounts, he's ready to go now. And if you can get that guy in, then I think that becomes Nick Anderson is your number 1, with Aaron Anderson as a very strong number 2. I'm okay putting Chris Hilton in there as a number 3 option with the ability to do what he does, which is stretch the field. And then if you can get something out of Berrien Brown and Kyle Parker and Xavier Thomas as kind of that 4th option, which, truth be told, you don't often go down to your 4th guy. Like, the greatest passing offense we've ever seen at LSU in 2019, you had Chase and Jefferson at the top. You had Terrace Marshall right there behind them. And then you basically had Thad Moss and, like, who was next? Like, it didn't matter. Like, that's enough guys, if you're healthy, to be a really good receiving core. I'm less comfortable with Aaron Anderson as your 1 and then, like, Berrien Brown and Chris Hilton as your, like, number 2 options. That feels like you're pushing it a little bit. I'd really rather slot Nick Anderson at the top here and then have it funnel backwards. I thought that Kyron Lacey did a really good job, and I think that Nick Anderson can fill in very admirably for Kyron Lacey. And I thought your receiving core was okay this year. It was not great. Thought it was okay. But you're bringing in more talent in Berrien Brown, and I think Aaron Anderson is more proven than he was September, October of this year. So I think Nick Anderson remains a key. What we're being told right now, if you read the folks over at On 3, I spent some time over at Texags today, LSU and Texas A&M are right in the mix for this thing for Nick Anderson. It's basically Texas A&M selling him on playing at home. He's from Katy, right outside of Houston. Texas A&M selling him on being close to family at at Texas A&M and playing in a room that doesn't really have a lot of proven commodities in it. They just brought in Micah Hudson, a 5-star from Texas Tech, but he didn't really do a lot. So you don't have a ton of proven guys at wide receiver at Texas A&M. Anderson kind of becomes the cream of the crop pretty quickly there. LSU is selling him on, hey, did you see their passing offense? It's terrible. Did you see ours? We throw it all over the place. We're top 10 in the country. Come play for us. And then we'll see where the NIL stuff falls out, and we obviously know that that's the case. But no one who's reporting on this situation is going to be comfortable tossing real numbers around for NIL. Like, that's not generally stuff that comes out immediately. So I think you're going to talk about two programs that are very interested in Nick Anderson, that have hosted him for visits, that have NIL money to spend, and then that's the pitch outside of that, those two. And so we'll see where things shake out. The feeling is that it's 1:10 on Tuesday right now. By 5 p.m. on Wednesday, Nick Anderson will have committed. And if I go to commercial break in the next 2.5 minutes and he's committed then, I won't be shocked. This thing is really close. He's seen what he needs to see. He's down to 2 schools, and we'll see what he does. If LSU lands Nick Anderson, I think you can realistically look at this wide receiver room and go, that's enough talent to compete at an elite level in college football. You've done enough by going to get Nick Anderson, Berrien Brown, Destin Hill, Teron Francis, Phillip Wright, and keeping Anderson and Hilton in the mix. You've got enough guys to go win at wide receiver at this point. I'm a little uncomfortable with where it sits right now, but I think you could land Nick Anderson shortly, and I think that'd be a really, really good thing for LSU. That is my Genesis opening drive here on this Tuesday. Every car on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. When we come back, report from Ian Rappaport on Derek Carr about his hand injury. Nick Underhill has chimed in with a little bit of a conflicting information, but I'll give you my thoughts on what should happen here for the last 3 weeks with Derek Carr. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio, video, security solutions, AVSSLA.com. Instagram is an incredible resource for AVSS because it allows you to log on and take a look at some of the great projects that they've undertaken over there. It's AVSS_BR. That's the handle on Instagram. Go check it out. They do fantastic work there. Mitchell was telling me a couple months ago, and I brought this up previously, about a project they did out on a dock. There was a house that had waterfront property to it, and a lot of folks down there on their piers, whether you're at the lake or wherever the case may be, struggle with Wi-Fi and trying to connect smart devices to it and play with your speakers. And you want to have great sound quality down there, but sometimes the internet doesn't work out. Well, Mitchell Fisher and his team went down there. They wired it properly. They got the internet boosted, and all of a sudden now you've got a situation where you can sit out there on the water and not can be concerned with whether or not the baby monitor will reach out there, whether or not your phone can stream anything out there. Your music's going to be loud and clear. That was one thing he did, and he said that's something that they would like to do moving forward in the future. If you've got some waterfront property, whether it's Diversion Canal or False River or wherever the case may be, and you struggle with internet down there, Audio Video Security Solutions can help you with all of that. Give Mitchell Fisher a call, 225-439-7920. Again, 225-439-7920. It's Audio Video Security Solutions, online at avssla.com.
The best-kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, hosted by the Goo Goo Dolls' #1 fan, Hunt Palmer.
Chat with Glenn West, Go 24/7 senior writer, coming up here in 15 minutes. We'll talk some Tiger basketball as well as a little bit of football with Glenn. Always look forward to that conversation. Sharif Ishak coming up in an hour and 15 minutes, and we'll chat with Sharif Ishak about the news in Saints land today. And that came from Ian Rappaport, who obviously covers the NFL nationally for NFL Network and NFL.com. And he had a tweet that he fired off earlier today about Derek Carr's future over the next 3 weeks. The tweet read, sources say Saints quarterback Derek Carr underwent further examination recently, and he's at least a few weeks away from being able to withstand contact. With 3 weeks remaining, a return this season is described as very unlikely. Carr has been out with a left hand that had been fractured in 2 different places. So that's what Ian Rappaport had to say with NFL.com. Nick Underhill of NewOrleans.football writes, and speaking with multiple sources, that Derek Carr's return this season has not been ruled out, that he's continued to work and continuing to try. I told you when we found out Derek Carr got hurt that he was going to do everything he could to get back on the field. That's just the way Derek Carr is wired. It's admirable. It's predictable in his case. He's been a professional for more than a decade in the NFL. We know last year he went out there when he shouldn't have been out there and tried to gut through it and played very, very poorly because he was in immense amounts of pain last season, but he played through it and eventually healed up, and he played much better later in the season. This year, when he got hurt, he simply could not throw a football, so it wasn't an option for him to come back and play, and that's why you saw Spencer Rattler get those 3 starts. But that's just the way Derek Carr is wired. And it's very, very admirable, as I said, for a guy that's making that kind of money to feel like, hey, the organization is invested in me. My teammates are here. I've got to do everything in my capability to get on the football field, because that's not the way everyone approaches this thing. It's just not. But it is the way that Derek Carr handles himself. And so this was predictable in terms of his effort to get back on the field. Here's the deal. Don't. Just don't. There's no need for Derek Carr to force himself to come back with a broken hand to play for a team that has no weapons on its offense, no playoff hopes, and no reason to send an aging quarterback out there that's compromised. It just doesn't make any sense. Again, I understand his sentiment, but I'm overruling it here. I realize he'll probably take that into consideration, what the guy 2 hours down the road had to say about his availability. But that's my take. There's no need for Derek Carr to go back out there and play. So here's the deal for New Orleans. In the meantime, while he's deciding whether or not he's going to play, because he's not going to play this weekend, what did the Saints do? We know when Carr initially went out in Kansas City that Haener was the backup. he was more equipped to go in with a Derek Carr game plan and try to operate the system. When they had then a week to prepare for the next game, Spencer Rattler was the more intriguing prospect, the guy they felt best about going out there and giving them a chance to win. Yes, the offensive line was banged up. Yes, Taysom Hill was out. Yes, their wide receiver weapons weren't very good. All of that we know to be the truth. But they felt like Spencer Rattler gave them the best chance, and it didn't go very well. The Saints lost all 3 games. He was inconsistent. He looked at times erratic and confused. It didn't go well. And Derek Carr returned to the lineup, and then he got hurt, and they sent Haener back out there because we know that he's the backup quarterback. When they've got a game plan in for Derek Carr, they put Haener in there. But then they had a decision to make last week. Okay, well, what do we do? Now we've got a week to prepare, and they went with Haener. And I don't know whether or not they went with Haener because they thought he gave them the best chance to win. Something had changed from the time they went to Spencer Rattler. Maybe those 3 games that Rattler started were evidence enough that Haener deserved a shot. Maybe they just wanted to split it down the middle. We gave Spencer his shot. Now we'll give Jake his shot. They're both later round draft picks. They're both working off the league minimum. Neither has proven himself to be the future of the franchise. We just feel like it's an equitable shot to go with Haener because we gave Spencer the first 3 starts there when Derek Carr went down. This time around, this week, there should be no discussion. It should be Spencer Rattler. 100 times out of 100. Because Jake Haener didn't do anything to warrant a start after that appearance last week. And Spencer Rattler, while he hasn't done much to warrant a start, the 4 straight scoring drives and the talent means it's time to give Spencer Rattler the keys to this thing for a couple of weeks. Now let me reach here a little bit. I'm fully aware that I'm reaching, but I'm going to reach. Spencer Rattler needs to start the last 3 games of this season. That's what needs to happen. And the reason for that is because I don't care about the equitable nature of giving Rattler 3 starts in this absence of Carr and then giving Haener some starts. And this is not 6th grade basketball where everybody gets to play a quarter. This is the National Football League. This is the future of a franchise that we're talking about. And the Saints are in their most significant inflection point in 20 years. You had the run from 5 all the way to a few years ago when Breeze retired, and there wasn't really an inflection point there. Yeah, they had the 7 and 9s, and they overhauled the roster for the chemistry and all that, but your core and your pillars were there. Your coach was there. Your quarterback was there. Your coach is gone. You don't even know who it's going to be, and you don't really know who your quarterback is beyond next year. If there is a modicum of a chance that Spencer Rattler can be that guy, you've got to give it this free opportunity. You've now got an opportunity where the wins and losses don't matter. The interceptions don't matter. The fumbles don't matter. The miscommunication doesn't matter. But if there's any chance that Rattler could find something here and play really good football over the course of 3 weeks, that could change the immediate future of the franchise. Again, I am reaching. I would bet against this significantly because I don't feel like right now Spencer Rattler is the future of the franchise, but it's possible. And there is no better way to change the fortunes of your franchise than to find a quarterback on a rookie deal that can do the job. And the Saints never do that. Never, never, never. But this is an opportunity, maybe, to let it try to happen. And I'm not a quarterback whisperer or a guru, and nobody pays me to break down film or be a consultant for him in the quarterback room. I am well aware. But I have not seen anything out of Jake Haener that gives me any inclination that he could be the Saints quarterback for the next 5 years. Nothing. And while it's been few and far between with Rattler, there's at least something there. You've now gotten to a point, unfortunately, where your quarterback's hurt and your playoff chances are done. Give him a month to try and see what you got. This is preseason come to regular season. They're free reps. Just give them to Rattler and see what happens. If he fails, which is likely, whatever. If he's mediocre, which is likely, he might be a good backup for you. If there's a small chance that he's pretty good next week and then great against the Raiders and great in Tampa, there's something there you might be able to cling to. And it's worth a look. We talk about this all the time. Like, quarterbacks are so hard to come by. Y'all know this as Saints fans. You've had one your entire life. So if you've got a chance to get a quarterback on a rookie deal, and you've got a chance to move on from Derek Carr after next year, and you've got a chance to move forward and create all that flexibility with your salary cap that you never had because you've been paying your quarterback astronomical amounts of money for 20 years, isn't it worth a look? I feel bad for continuing to toss this disclaimer in it, but I feel like it's necessary. Like, I know it's a long shot, but why not try? And that's the only way to try, in my opinion, is with Spencer Rattler here. So that's my take on the entirety of the situation. I would toss the keys to Rattler, tell Derek Carr to keep that cast on his hand, and we'll see in minicamp. That's where I am on the Saints and their quarterback situation. Beck, is it an absolute waste of time to consider the fact that Spencer Rattler might be the quarterback of the Saints in the foreseeable future?
No, I don't think so. The only thing I would say in opposition to that would be the idea that you draft a quarterback in this next draft and Derek Carr starts again next year and you have your quarterback in waiting, quote unquote, and then you go from there after next year and move on from Carr and start whoever. Maybe you can keep Rattler. I just
don't know if they're going to draft a quarterback in the middle rounds 3 years in a row.
Yeah, maybe not. But like you said, I mean, you have to have.
And again, I was for that. Probably the last 2 years, but at this point, like, it's time to start drafting guys that can play. And quarterbacks usually can't play.
Yeah,
you've done it with two of them. You got 2 lottery tickets here. The odds are most lottery tickets end up in the garbage, but you might have one that hits. And so you got to start taking guys in the draft that you need to start hitting on some 5th round picks that can play defensive tackle for you. You need a hit on a 5th round pick that can be a safety. You need Marcus Williams. Y'all know the names, but like, that's where I am from their drafting perspective. The draft is so vital to what they're trying to do now. For them to toss another pick potentially in the trash can with a quarterback, just go with Rattler. See.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree fully. They have to start Carr next year. Like they just have no choice in terms of the money. That after next year, they can probably move on, even though they're going to have to eat some of it. But I still think that there is a possibility that they do go and draft on their quarterback next year, just because of Jake Haener probably obviously not being in terms of, and I think we both agree that he's not going to be, going to be around long term. So I would definitely start Rattler for the rest of the season, but that's up to the Saints and Derek Carr, and like you said, Carr is going to play if he can. So
I feel bad like taking Jake Haener and saying one half of football is like
we've seen more than one half.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen some preseason stuff, you've seen some reserve stuff. None of it's in ideal situations, but I just don't see anything that's going to lead me to believe that there's anything there.
I mean, it was a completely opposite terms for the offense. It just looked it completely flipped in the second half when they played Rattler.
Crazy.
There's no way of not seeing it that way.
Glenn West, senior writer at Go 24/7, with us next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. The only fully exclusive Genesis dealer in the state of Louisiana, right here in Baton Rouge, on Airline Highway at Pico, across from Women's Hospital. If you've never stopped by Genesis, or you've never thought about a Genesis, or maybe never seen a Genesis, go by and check it out. I promise you will not be disappointed. They offer a luxury experience at a reasonable price. And that luxury means like a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Luxury means 3 years of complimentary maintenance valet maintenance. They can handle your air filters, oil changes, wiper fluid, all that kind of stuff that is a nuisance to go taken care of. They can handle it. They'll come to you. They'll leave you with a car. They'll take your car back to the dealership, handle all that maintenance, complimentary, send it right, send it right on back to you. That's just part of the experience of being a Genesis driver. The experience there is phenomenal. I've spoken with a number of their brand ambassadors over the last couple of months, and they're always phenomenal to work with. And the line of vehicles is just second to none. Go by and check them out, Airline Highway at Pico, or start that process online at genesisofbatonrouge.com, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Got chores that need some extra muscle, but a large piece of equipment is overkill? That's what John Deere compact utility tractors were made for. Powerful enough for the work you need to do. Compact enough for how you need to do it. Find the equipment that's right for you at Sunshine Quality Solutions. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Savor game day platters and snacks, plus drink specials at 1717 Kitchen and Cocktail. So come out for game day and let our team make you the MVP. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Let's head on out to the Jim's Firearms hotline. That's where we can find our guy Glenn West, senior writer at Go 24/7. It's a great time to check them out over there with the portal season up and running. Of course, football bowl game coming up and basketball coverage as well. Glenn, Sonny, and the whole crew over there at Go 24/7 do a great job. We enjoy chatting with Glenn every single Tuesday at 1:30. Glenn, how are you?
I'm doing great, Hunt. Just got about 1 million tabs opened on my computer, but you know we're getting through it. How about you?
How many times do you refresh Twitter a day?
Oh, dude, I would. It would be sad the amount of times I do if I were to like make a guesstimate on that one. It's sad for sure.
It's significant. I get it. It's portal season. What do you make of the comings and goings, big picture? We'll talk about some individually, but do you feel like they're getting better?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think when you're talking about the seven guys, five of them are ranked in the top 100 of our personal 24/7 sports transfer portal rankings, and they've got the number one class in the country right now in terms of the transfer portal. They're reeling in high four-star caliber kind of players and pieces that have started at SEC and Big Ten programs. I mean, I think it's significant, when you have the kind of guys that they're bringing in as opposed to the guys that they're leaving. I know CJ Daniels was one that a lot of people were a little surprised maybe left, but really outside of that, he was the only guy that I think that has left your program that was contributing for you in a major way. These other guys were pretty young guys and ones that weren't really on the field a whole ton for you. So I think to replace some of the depth that they've lost with guys who are starters and guys who can come in and make an instant impact in 2025, I think Brian Kelly and this program is putting its money where its mouth is, and I think you're seeing that reflected in some of the big names they've been able to land so far.
I talked about wide receivers in my first segment today, and I thought they were one guy short, maybe like a number one. I think Nick Anderson just makes the most sense, and if they can add him, and then you add Aaron Anderson as your number two, and then you got Chris Hilton, and then Barry and Brown, some of those guys to add depth, and you figure one of those guys will kind of pop for you. I think that sounds better than right now, like Aaron Anderson maybe being your number one. Where do you think they are at wide receiver right now?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put past Barry and Brown to be your number one
Yeah.
either. I mean, I think they spent a whole bunch of resources trying to get him on board, and so he's going to be that vertical threat for you. I think if you're able to retain Chris Hilton, he's certainly going to be a vertical threat for you if he can stay healthy. So Aaron Anderson will be certainly in the mix in the slot, a guy that can really just be a reliable returner for Nussmeier and someone that Nuss really trusted in some of those big third down throws. Obviously, the touchdown against Ole Miss there on fourth down was one of the key plays of the entire season. So I think if you get the one big-bodied receiver, and obviously everybody that follows recruiting even loosely or follows the program loosely knows that LSU is in on Oklahoma wide receiver Nick Anderson. We'll see if they can get over the finish line with him, but he would be the guy. I mean, if you go out and you grab him with Barry and Brown, you just added Destin Hill today as well. That is, I think, replenishing, and not only just replenishing, but overextending. I think what maybe the expectations were for LSU in terms of landing these elite type receivers and really building that room back up.
What do you make of the Michael Van Buren edition?
I like it. I mean, my initial tweet as soon as I had heard the news was like, I just don't think there's much more of an ideal scenario for LSU in terms of landing a quarterback this offseason. You're talking about a young freshman that got 7 starts in the SEC last year, looked pretty good. He's a pretty mobile guy as well. I know I think before sack adjusted yards, he had about 170 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns. So he's somebody that can scramble a little bit too. He needs some polishing, he needs some work, but I think that's a big reason why he's coming to Baton Rouge. He's going to come here and he's going to develop for a year, and I think that this before after the Bryce Underwood thing happened, you didn't really have a succession plan at quarterback. I think you had a couple of guys that you were hoping could turn into that. I think now you have some competition in that room, guy that's going to push Nussmeier. If Colin Hurley continues to develop, I think that those two, meaning Van Buren and Hurley, will battle it out in 2026. And I think that's a really good position to be in if you're LSU. If you have two guys that are returning to the program that could be competing for that starting spot that are already in the system, I think that would be the ideal scenario. And Van Buren's a guy that has multiple years of eligibility left, so I think it checks off a lot of the boxes that LSU was looking for, and is a really smart and good addition in my opinion.
So let's talk about the offense as a whole then. We talked wide receiver. I think everyone's comfortable with where they are at running back. Do they need to add on the offensive line in the transfer portal?
I do. Yeah, I think that they're going to add to the offensive line, and I'm probably looking at the interior right now. Another guy that's being really heavily mentioned with LSU and linked with LSU is Virginia Tech center Braylon Moore. I think that would make a lot of sense. I mean, you hate to call it the weak link, but that was what DJ Chester was for LSU on the offensive line this year, and I think that DJ Chester has a really bright future. I think he needs some more development this offseason, but I also think he could be really a solid guard if you were able to move him over to guard and you bring in a veteran that's played a lot of football in Braylon Moore to be the center. I think that would be a guy that could help lead that group and help bring some of these younger players up that you're obviously going to be asking to step up and be contributors next year that weren't starters this season. So yeah, I think that's going to be extremely important for LSU to try to get another veteran presence in here, and we'll see if they can get across the finish line with a guy like Braylon Moore, or maybe they look at a tackle. I mean, the tackle market, the thing I always say about tackles is like either the really good ones are going to the draft or the schools are going to pay them to stick, to keep them around. So I think the tackle market maybe isn't as fruitful right now as it maybe at some other positions are, but you got some young pieces like Tyree Adams and Weston Davis that you can work in there, and guys that I know that LSU's are excited about. So we'll see kind of what happens there, but I do think that the one guy that people should be monitoring right now is Braylon Moore. Seems to be LSU and Michigan State is what he's kind of limited his schools down to.
That doesn't seem like a hard decision to me, but we'll see what Braylon wants to do. Let's talk about Corey Raymond's group, as he's been pretty busy both in the high school ranks and of course in the transfer portal ranks as well. Is it starting to, in your opinion, look a little bit more like DBU back there?
Yeah, I mean, when we're just writing up all of these commitment pieces, you look at the heights and it's 6'1", 6 feet, 190 pounds. I mean, that's just right up Corey Raymond's alley in terms of, the kinds of cornerbacks that he's recruited in the past and had success with. So, yeah, look, Jakeem Jackson was a great pickup. I think that was one we were expecting for a while. And then Delane, Mansour Delane, I think was one that came together pretty quickly, but LSU made the pitch and he wanted to jump on board. And I think that gives you another veteran, another guy that's played a lot of football at a very high level. So very, very good work in the secondary between those two. And then obviously the trio of cornerbacks you brought in with Pickett and Anding and Jacob Bradford out of the freshman class. And, you mentioned all those names, and you still got Ashton Stamps, who was a starter for you this year. You've got PJ Woodland, who played a lot of football for you this year, that could continue to develop. So I think the secondary, particularly at cornerback, you're seeing some really good signs that this group is on the come up, and at least on paper. And now we have to see what they do at safety, because that's the kind of the next benchmark, I think, for LSU to clear defensively.
Glenn West, our guest, senior writer over at Go 24/7. All your team coverage, he's got you covered over there. They've got a great staff over at Go 24/7. Let's talk a little bit of hoops here, Glenn. What was the biggest concern for you on Saturday in the loss to SMU?
Well, I mean, the turnovers for sure. The second half turnovers, they had, 13 or 14 of them, which really just cost them the game. And, LSU has been a pretty good second half team all season long. I think the last two games, they have not been a great second half team. They've actually gotten off to better starts and finished poorly. So they've got to get that under control. I mean, they brought in a lot of these senior guards, a lot of these veterans, and you just can't make the kind of turnovers and silly mistakes that they were making late in that game, especially a winnable game, a game that had a lot of quad one opportunities and resume building opportunities for you. So it was a disappointing loss. I think probably the most disappointing of the season, probably over Pitt. Even the Pitt game, I would say that the SMU game was a little bit more disappointing, because of how well I thought they played in the first half. I thought they controlled the first half for the most part, and then just came out and they were a different team in the second half and not a very good one. So you're going to have a lot of opportunities, obviously, when SEC play comes along to build that resume up. But you would have liked to have seen LSU finish that game a little bit stronger. And I think that the guard play, if they can limit the turnovers, then I think they'll be fine here, especially over the next three games. I mean, I don't think any of these three teams they're playing to close out conference play are particularly good. So you can get to the SEC part of your schedule with two losses. I think that's something that Matt McMahon and his staff would have taken going into the year, and then you just got to get through the gauntlet as best you can and try to operate it as best as you can.
That was a very kind way for you to put the last three non-conference games. They're all terrible teams, in fact, and so I think LSU is going to handle their business in those three. That said, if you look at the non-conference and you figure that they win these last three, how would you assess that as a whole?
I would say good. I mean, what would have made it great is if they had beaten one of Pitt or SMU. I was thinking maybe the Kansas State or the UCF win might have been a quad one win. But it looks like those teams are also kind of in a little bit of a I wouldn't say downturn, but they're not as good as maybe some people thought they might have been heading into the year. So, look, I think the real meat of your schedule is going to be this SEC thing, and if they can navigate it, I mean, like I've been kind of going back and forth on this. What do you think is a respectable win total for an SEC team to make the playoff or to make the NCAA tournament this year? Do you think 8 or 9 wins gets you there? I mean, I think 9 wins for sure, but
9 for sure. I would say 8 almost for sure because nobody threw up on themselves in the non-conference. Like there's usually a team that's 5-5 in the non-conference, and like that point wouldn't get you in. But like Mississippi State got in at 8-10 last year, and they didn't set the world on fire in the non-conference. They just didn't implode like LSU did. So I would have a hard time 7-11. That's
I will say in terms of the non-conference schedule, they don't have any bad losses on there. So if you go in there and you handle, if you get to 7-8 wins in conference play, I think you make it a decision. And but look, I mean, you've talked about it. I've listened to your show a little bit. The SEC is as loaded as it's ever been in basketball. It's going to be extremely difficult, but we'll see if this team can kind of have the senior leadership that can put it all together to have a respectable record this year.
I guess to kind of put it to bow on that, like it depends on a little bit what the 8-10 looks like, what the 7-11 looks like. If you can pick one off, like I don't even know what their schedule is, quite frankly, where they play at home and road. I'd have to look at it more. Like if you can win at Florida, if you can win in Knoxville, like one of those games, that's a big deal. If all your wins are against, Missouri, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma, whatever, like that's not going to mean quite as much. But if you can pick off a couple, like I want to say Mississippi State swept Tennessee last year, which is a big deal for them. So it just kind of depends on what it looks like. But I think if LSU gets to 8 wins in the league, I think they'll be a tournament team. But that's going to be real difficult to get to. So we'll see you at the PMAC tonight, Glenn. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks, Hunt. Appreciate it.
Glenn West, senior writer, Go 24/7. Always enjoy our conversations with Glenn each and every Tuesday. Still a lot to do in hour number 2 on the show today. I want to talk about LSU's defensive backs and kind of how Corey Raymond is cultivating that team moving forward. I want to talk about this LSU Stetson basketball game coming up tonight because, as we mentioned, Stetson's very bad, but I want to talk about what that Hatters team looks like and more specifically what I'd like to see from LSU. That's really the key tonight for an 8 o'clock tip-off. Then Sharif's going to join us at 2:30 to talk a little bit about the Saints and kind of where they go from here. And honestly, I'd probably need to talk to Sharif now about the reports that the Pelicans are considering trading just about anybody not named Herb Jones or Yves Missy. It looks like they're in a position where they're going to do some significant overhauling of that roster. So we'll talk to Sharif a little bit about that at the in the bottom of hour number 2. I don't do this a lot, but there are some pretty startling statistics for a team that's that is outside of our market. But sometimes you shoehorn something into the back end of an hour and it's a reasonable talking point. So we'll do that, and then we'll get back to LSU at the top of hour number 2. Don't go anywhere. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil Melissa running Boudreaux's Electrical for 40 years. Look, one of the great things about Boudreaux's Electrical is the fact that they've got more than 10 technicians out in the field at a given time. If there's an issue with your Generac home standby generator, they can have someone to your home really quickly to make sure it's up and running. Nobody wants the power to be down for a very long time, and if you've got a generator, you don't want the power down at all. And I'm not just speaking about whether or not a generator comes on when the power goes off. I'm talking about if there's a malfunction at any point, whether it's done mechanically or, like I say, sometimes some of the kids are out in the yard and somebody runs into the generator and may just mess it up. Well, they'll know because they've got remote monitoring technology. So they'll see that there's an issue. They'll call you and say, hey, something happened here. Can we come check it out? They'll go check it out, and they'll make sure that you're up and running so that when the power does go out, which is inevitable down here, you've got the peace of mind to know that you're going to have electricity thanks to the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical. Give them a call at the same number they have had for 40 years, 985-397-1562, 985-397-1562, or a new number right here in Gonzales in the 225. That's 393-89. I give you the easy way every day. It's BoudreauxElectrical.com, BoudreauxElectrical.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further. like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
When it comes to choosing energy for your family and your home, make the smart choice with natural gas. You can count on efficient and affordable natural gas to keep you comfortable and reduce your environment.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Closing up hour number 1 here, Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Y'all know I do this every once in a while when my Twitter feed in my kind of internet world has a lot of Chicago Cubs in it, as you might expect, and so that bleeds over into the Bears for sure, and then a little bit of the Bulls and a smidge of the Blackhawks. But I get a lot of Bears stuff. And you know that last night did not go very well for the Bears. And the Bears fans, as you might imagine, are in full-blown panic mode that they have gotten the most talented quarterback in the history of the organization, which has just produced dreadful quarterback play for decades. And they felt like they finally had their guy. It was Trubisky, and then it was Fields, and now you got Caleb Williams. And they keep trying, these talented guys, and they keep screwing them up. And they felt like this was the one they really couldn't screw up. He's that talented. He's that good. And they drafted him, and they put a lot of toys and weapons around him. And Ryan Poles, their GM, said it's time to win. Like, they intentionally lost last year. Said it's time to win this year. Well, they now lost 8 in a row. They were 4-2, and they've lost every game since. They have not won a road game since November 27th of 2023. That's 13 months as of now. They haven't won a game on U.S. soil since October the 6th, which is a significant amount of time. And they haven't scored in the first half of their last 3 football games. 53-0 has been the score in the first half over the last 3 games. And they made this massive mistake that's just unbelievable. They fired their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, because he was doing a terrible job, and the Bears were awful on offense. And so they promoted Thomas Jones to offensive coordinator, and he seemed to be getting Caleb Williams going a little bit. Well, then they fired Eberflus, and they promoted Thomas Jones to head coach and took him away from working with Caleb Williams. They prioritized these meaningless November and December games in a lost season over the development of their young quarterback, who is the only thing that matters in the entire organization. That is organizational dysfunction at its very finest. And the Saints have not been in this situation before where you're trying to nurture a young quarterback that you've taken very early in the draft along. But I think everyone can understand like just how frustrating that can be when you take Trubisky in the top 3 picks in the draft, and then you take Justin Fields, who you traded up for, and then you end up with the lottery ticket that gets you Caleb Williams, and you just can't get any of it to go right ever. That is maddening. And they say you're in the good old days until they're gone, and I think that a lot of Saints fans remember the Breeze years very, very fondly and understand how quickly it can fall apart on you from a quarterback perspective. Well, the Bears don't even have any good years. They don't have it. They got to the Super Bowl with Rex Grossman back there. Like, they had a lot of Jay Cutler years. And that was the highlight. Not to mention the McCowns that they've gone through in the years of Trubisky and Nick Foles coming in, who was supposed to be good, but then he wasn't. And now they've got the guy, and they're ruining him. Like, it's just, they're terrible. Not scoring in the first half of 3 consecutive NFL games is malpractice. Like, that's just inconceivable. You got to get a field goal. Just can't get it done. No points in the first half of 3 straight games, outscored by more than half 100. Sad times on the lakefront. And now it's really cold there for the next 5 months. But the Cubs got Kyle Tucker, and I'm happy about that. That's it for hour number 1. We're going to come back and talk a little basketball, LSU and Stetson tonight. Also want to talk a little DBU, Corey Raymond, kind of overhauling that entire secondary. What does that kind of look like right now? And how much better is it than a couple of weeks ago? We'll do that in hour number 2, The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. You don't have to move to create a better living situation for yourself. You can, but you don't have to. You got a great interest rate, not looking to move, love the location of your home, but bathroom could use an update. Closet space, not exactly what you're looking for. Have David Duvall and his team come over for a free consultation. That part doesn't cost you anything. Just to have the conversation with David and his team. They can do a full-scale renovation or remodel. Their licensed contractor will be the only call you make. They can also do smaller things. They can handle your closet and not necessarily gut the whole thing. Just use your space a little bit more efficiently. They can do a tub-to-shower conversion in the bathroom. Large projects, small projects, they can handle it at your home. It's David Duvall and One Bath and Closets. I invite you to go to the website, OneBathAndClosets.com. One Bath and Closets. Check them out online. OneBathAndClosets.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings camps with former LSU assistant.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes said today he won't know until closer to the end of this week if he feels he can protect himself and able to play Saturday against Houston. He's got a mild high ankle sprain. Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans is when Lions star edge rusher Aiden Hutchinson's targeting for his return from a fractured tibia and fibula. Told the Squeeze podcast if they make it, he plans on being on the field that night, ready to contribute. Hutchinson's one of many injuries Detroit's dealing with, yet nothing changes for Coach Dan Campbell. He says they'll continue to fight for the NFC's 1 seed. Unsportsmanlike co-host Chris Canty.
I think the Detroit Lions are done. I don't think they're going to go on a championship run. I don't even know that the Detroit Lions are going to win their division. It's hard to overcome all of those injuries, man. David Montgomery's out. Khalil Dorsey's out. Carlton Davis is out. Alim McNeil, who's a Pro Bowl / All-Pro caliber player, out. And that's on top of all of the other injuries that you got.
The Commanders-Falcons Week 17 game flexed to Sunday Night Football by the NFL. The Dolphins and Browns moved to 4:05 Eastern.
Time with family, laughs with friends, and cash back? Discover's got you covered on the last one. That's because Discover doubles all the cash back you've earned on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cash Back Match. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in to hour number 2 on Palmer Show on a Tuesday. Sharif Ishak, bottom of the hour. Talk some DBU here in 15 minutes. But LSU and Stetson tonight from the PMAC. It's an 8 o'clock tip, so a late tip. I feel like this is probably going to be the lightest crowd of the year, just based on the fact that the students are gone, based on the fact that you're talking about a Stetson team that's 1-9. You're coming off a loss, holiday season, 8 o'clock tip on a Tuesday. It just feels like could be the worst crowd of the season. I feel like more people are going to show up on a Sunday against UNO coming up this week than there will be on a Tuesday night at 8 o'clock for the Hatters. I want to get most importantly into what matters for LSU in this game tonight because that's the biggest deal. But I will briefly give you a rundown on the Stetson Hatters. They are 1-9. The win was on opening night for them. They beat something. Now, it's very rare that I see a new college that I've literally never heard of that is presented to me at this point in my life and my career. I spend a lot of time whether it's baseball games, basketball statistics, going over schedules. Like, I see a lot of colleges over time. I may not be able to point to them on a map, but I've at least heard of them. They opened their season against a school I never heard of, and they won the game. It's called New College. I am hoping that's named after someone whose last name is New, and that the folks who created said school didn't just go, well, this is not an old school, it's a new college, so we'll just call it that. I've got to think that's somebody's last name.
Is it New College of Florida?
Yes.
Okay. They were founded in 1960 as a private college for, I mean, it doesn't
It's a liberal arts school. I looked that up.
It doesn't say anything about anyone named New.
I mean, surely the folks who got together and formed this university didn't come up with the name New College.
It doesn't say anything about a person being named New, and that's why it's called that.
Well, that's a poor effort by that group of coming up with a name for that university. I will just say that. And clearly, they're a poor basketball team because they lost to Stetson, and Stetson hasn't won a game since. They're 1-9. The Hatters come into this game having lost 9 straight, as I mentioned. The net has 364 teams in it. This team comes in at 355. There are 10 teams with a worse net than Stetson. Their losses, they lost to Omaha by 3. They lost at the Citadel by 22. They went to Norman and got beat by the Sooners by 21. Toledo beat them by 25. But they've played tougher of late. They lost to East Carolina by 7, lost to LaSalle by 15, lost at South Florida by 2, lost to Mercer by 6, and lost to Florida International by 9. Not great for the Hatters out of DeLand, Florida. Offensive efficiency, 271st in the country. Defensive efficiency, 337th in the country. They don't do anything well. Period. That's all I got for you on Stetson. I looked through some statistics. None of them are worth rattling off to you, except the ones that relate to the things that I'm trying to see from LSU in this game tonight. And it starts with freaking turnovers. LSU has to stop turning the ball over at such an alarming rate. It doesn't make a lot of sense that LSU turns the ball over as much as they do. You've got Jordan Sears, who is a senior point guard, who has been manning the point for Tennessee Martin and LSU for over 3 years. You've got Cam Carter, a third-year college player who handles the ball a lot, that should not be turning the ball over as much as he is. Now, this is what we talked about yesterday when we were talking about the SMU game, and I will stand by this until I'm proven wrong in 3 or 4 weeks. I don't think Damian Collins is going to keep turning the ball over 4 and 5 times a night. I don't think he is. I think he will get into the flow of playing 25, 28 minutes and will do a better job of taking care of the ball and understanding his role on the offensive side. Quite frankly, like, what he does should not allow for 4 or 5 turnovers. He's not dribbling very much. They're not running any sets for him. He's doing dribble handoffs and handling the ball at the top of the key every once in a while to reset the offense. Like, it's not an intensive workload for him handling the basket. We had 5 turnovers on Saturday. That's got to stop. So the turnovers have to stop. But this is an even more concerning statistic than the turnovers, because I feel like turnovers, I feel like there's a better chance of correcting those issues than there are on the defensive glass. Beck, you pointed me in this direction, but I came up with this. As I mentioned, there are 364 teams in Division I. 364. LSU is 357 in offensive rebounds allowed per game. Now, let me toss a caveat in briefly on that statistic, because while it's unacceptable to be 357th in anything at LSU, like that should not happen, there is a reason why it's a little bit skewed. LSU is 25th in the country in possessions, so they play a lot of possessions. And this is a positive for LSU, the Tigers right now are 26th in the country in shooting percentage defense, which means they are playing more possessions than almost everybody, and they force more misses than almost everybody. So you're going to allow more offensive rebounds than a lot of teams. Not like this. Not like this when you played basketball games against low-level teams to this point. Charleston Southern, not any good. ULM, not any good. Alabama A&M, not any good. You've played games against bad teams, and you need to wipe them off the glass. Great job on first shot defense. I'm with you there. Want to play fast? I'm all about it. But you got to get on the backboard, and you've got to stop teams from getting to the glass the way that they have offensively against you. Because here's the deal. When you turn the ball over 14, 15, 17, 18 times in a game, and you give up 12, 13 offensive rebounds, that is a lot of extra possessions for other teams and empty possessions for you on the other end. And when that gets out of whack, which it did on Saturday, SMU outshot LSU from the field and outshot them from the free throw line. It's hard to win consistently. Not all the time, but it's hard to win consistently when you're erasing your own possessions with turnovers and you're allowing extra possessions because the team that you're playing against is getting offensive rebounds. That's a big issue. I'm not concerned with Cam Carter having an off shooting night on Saturday. I'm not concerned with Victorious Miller scuffling from three-point range right now. I'm not concerned with the fact that Curtis Givens hasn't given you quite the minutes I thought he might. I'm concerned about Jalen Reed's absence. That's still there. But there are some pieces to this that I'm not overly concerned about that have been underwhelming at times. This is important. You have to get to the glass, and you have to stop turning the ball over. And that's really what I'm looking for tonight. LSU is a 24-point favorite over Stetson. They're going to beat this terrible basketball team. I don't have any issues with that. And by the way, caveat, Stetson last year went 22-13 and made the NCAA tournament. So I'm not going to blame Matt McMahon for this game being on the schedule. I don't love the next couple that are on the schedule. Mississippi Valley State doesn't need to be on the schedule. That's a team that was always going to be in the bottom 50 in the net. It just so happens they're dead last in the net. But this game against Stetson, like they were good last year. You just never know in the transfer portal era, especially with the low major teams, what that's going to look like. So, yeah, I'm bummed that it's just going to be an albatross around your neck that you're playing these 3 games. But this one I can see. But they're bad. And I don't care if LSU wins by 28 or 19 or 14. Like, I don't really care about that. What does it look like? What do you accomplish? Yes, the efficiency numbers do matter at times. Yes, it stinks when you're playing a game a couple weeks ago or last week and you allow a run late that cuts the deficit from 18 to 9. Maybe that makes your efficiency look worse. I think that's probably less of the equation than we make it out to be at times when you look at the net. So I don't really care what the margin of victory is, quite frankly. I just want to see a cleaner basketball game. And it's one of those deals where you're going to go into the PMAC tonight. There's not going to be anybody in there. No students, no crowd, no energy, no juice. It's going to be a morgue in there at 8 o'clock tonight. You got to bring your own energy because defensive rebounding is want to. That's a want to thing. Turnovers oftentimes are focus. Yeah, if you play against Auburn and they full court pressure for 40 minutes, you might have a couple turnovers there because they're just good at that. Stetson can't do that to you. The turnovers that LSU commits tonight, a lot of them will be on focus and decision-making. And that's stuff you can clean up. So I'll be in there tonight. I'll be writing about it on LouisianaSports.net this evening. But to me, this is not about Stetson. I didn't tell you one player on their team, one average, 1 3-point. None of that matters. They're terrible. Go out there and win the game, and don't turn the ball over and hit the glass. That's my breakdown of LSU and Stetson this evening from the PMAC. Beck, can I interest you in some LSU Stetson tonight? You going to be grinding that?
No, I don't think so. Unless Corey Kluber or Jacob deGrom maybe show up. That'd be cool to see.
Great Stetson legends there. Fun fact, many people won't know, Paul Maneri's first team at LSU in 2007 went to Stetson to play, and they got swept. And I was a freshman at LSU and mortified that this powerhouse baseball program that I'd grown up with, right when I get to go down to Baton Rouge and go to all the games, Smoke has run them to a non-tournament bid the year before when I was a senior, and then they were terrible and got swept by Stetson. But I think they got beat by 2 out of 3 by Lipscomb that year as well. I remember listening to one of those games in the dorm. That's how cool I was in college.
Very cool.
Yeah, Maneri figured it out. They They were good the next year, and they won the national championship the year after that. So it all worked out. I had fun going to baseball games in college. It didn't look like that when LSU played Stetson in his first year. If I offered you the opportunity to watch Elf on TV or the LSU Stetson game tonight, what would it be?
Well, I would choose LSU because Elf is a great movie and I like watching it, but I'm gonna end up watching it at some point before Christmas. So I'm okay with not watching.
We knocked out Frosty the Snowman animated version last night.
That's good. Good one.
28 minutes. I didn't realize it was that short.
Pretty short.
My wife thought I probably won't use that on the air. She thought that it was a little weird. I guess I'll say
it's a little bit off the beaten path, I guess you could say. But it's good.
Hannah Griff just texted me, called all 3 games in DeLand. Gross. DeLand is nice, though. So Hanny was there in 2007 when Stetson swept LSU. Corey Kluber did pitch in that weekend. DeGrom, I don't think was there yet, but Kluber did pitch that weekend for the Hatters. All right, we'll take a timeout when we come back. Let's talk DBU. What's Corey Raymond got cooking for the LSU secondary moving into next year? That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. For your commercial property and casualty insurance, call the Highland Insurance Group. I know that a lot of folks who own businesses, because I was in the business for 7 years in insurance, a lot of times you just look at the premium and you just renew that insurance and you don't really pay much attention to what's going on. And that's one way to handle it, and it's the easy way to handle it. But when something goes wrong, whether it's a car accident, somebody's severely injured, whether it's a cyber attack that you didn't even see coming, maybe you didn't even know there was insurance for that. Maybe it's just a big old hurricane that comes through. After that happens is not the time to dive into your policy and see what you're covered for. The time to do that is before you renew. And the Highland Insurance Group believes that your insurance broker should be a trusted part of your team. Just like your attorney, just like your CPA, you trust them to make sure that everything's on the up and up with your business so that you can worry about running your business and let them worry about the crises on the other hand. That's what the Highland Insurance Group will do for you. Employment practices, liability insurance, crime insurance, cyber, D&O, umbrella limits, all that they can handle for your property and casualty needs. If you're a business owner and you're looking for an alternative with your insurance, check out the Highland Insurance Group and find them online at HighlandIG.com. That's HighlandIG.com.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Sharif Ishak coming up in about 10 or 12 minutes, talking Saints, whether or not Derek Carr should return for any of these last 3 weeks, and what the heck is going on with the Pelicans, who have the second worst record in the association, as the kids call it. So we'll talk about that with Sharif coming up here.
I don't think the kids call it the association, huh? I think the old people may call it the association.
How many kids you know?
A lot.
You don't know that many kids.
I mean, I'm basically a kid compared to you.
That's true, for sure. I really don't know what the kids say. I should never say that's
Just
what the kids say.
The NBA, the league.
The league?
Yeah.
I hadn't watched much of the association this year.
I haven't either. You know, I went out and got an antenna so that I could watch the Pels for quote unquote free. And I watched a couple of games and they just kept getting blown out. I'm just like, I'm tired of watching.
There's no need to watch that. It's not good. Not good. So we'll see if they trade everybody. We'll talk to Sharif about that coming up here in a few minutes. We know how many of y'all watch our YouTube videos and Instagram reels and social media posts and whatnot. Some, the Spazzali ladies, track that more closely than others. But we know how many of y'all watch, and we know when one gets rolling and gets cooking and makes a lot of views, and we know when one doesn't really get off the ground. And I know that a lot of folks saw my rant, maybe too strong a word, but thoughts, surely, on LSU secondary like 3 weeks into fall camp. And I went out there and I said, I just don't think these guys can cover that well. And I don't know if that was borne out for the entirety of the 12 weeks. I think they didn't get any stops when they needed to against USC in the fourth quarter. But they weren't just awful defensively in the secondary. But it just didn't look like I'm used to it looking. I've been going out to LSU football practices for 15 years now. And while I say this all the time, like I don't know that I think a lot of you that listen, that are such big LSU fans, would love to go to a football practice one day. You would think it was the coolest thing ever, or you think it would be. And maybe for that first hour, you would really, really like it. You'd be up close and personal with the players. You see the coaches coaching those guys. You see them go through the drills, see how big and fast and strong all these college football players are. And maybe that would be cool. But I can promise you after 15 years of doing it, like you wouldn't just cherish every moment you were out there. I promise. I'm not complaining about that job. It beats the heck out of almost all the other jobs, going to watch them practice and then coming to talk about it. I'm just suggesting from an entertainment value level, it's not the greatest thing that anyone's ever done. But I do have fond memories of going out and watching LSU's DBs work under Ron Cooper and Corey Raymond, and seeing position groups, and I rattled these names off at the end of last week, but like seeing the 2010 and 2011 teams that had Patrick Peterson and Morris Claiborne and Tyrann Mathieu and Brandon Taylor and Eric Reed and Ron Brooks and Thurl Simon, all these guys that played in the NFL, and what that looked like, and the edge and the confidence and the swagger that those guys played with. And I remember going out to watch the 19 team and seeing Christian Fulton and Derek Stingley and Grant Delpit and like guys that played and that are stars in the NFL. And the way that group looked and carried itself. And I've watched LSU at corner and safety the last 3 years, and it just doesn't look like that. And that feels like too high a standard to try to grade on. I've chastised, big picture, chastised a lot of folks for comparing Garrett Nussmeier immediately to Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow. and I realize I'm kind of doing the same thing in this vein, but you had it for so long, and it's so many different guys. I mean, I didn't even throw out the year where you had Tre'Davious White and Jamal Adams, and like those are pros too. So it wasn't like it was one standout here, one standout there. This is probably a total of 25 guys over 10 or 12 years that just looked the part and you knew. And I just don't know that I'm looking at that. And that has been troubling to me in the last 2 fall camps. I don't want necessarily to hear all that time about that 3-star that was a late ad that, they kind of turning some heads. Just tell me where the first-round pick is, man. That's what I'm looking for. Because in Tuscaloosa and Athens, like, they got first-round picks. In Columbus, Ohio, they got first-round picks. And forever, LSU had first-round picks. And I'm looking for that to resurface. And I think all of you are too. And there's no way for me to sit here today and truly forecast that. Because I can't tell you, there would have been no way for me to look at Deuce Chestnut or Jarek Bernard-Converse and pick which one would come in, fail, and go back, and which one would come in, play solid football, and get drafted. Like, I can't do that for you. One of them worked, one of them didn't. And you could basically do the same thing with Zy Alexander and the Richardson kid they brought in from McNeese. Like, both guys are big frames. They played at the FCS. One came in and was outmatched. The other one came in and was your best cover corner when he was healthy. So I'm not here to try to be a complete talent evaluator on the high school or transfer level. But I will tell you this. I trust Corey Raymond to do it. And I believe when he identifies players, there's a really good chance they'll be great. Yeah, it's easier to identify Derek Stingley and Jamal Adams. But I would go back to the guys like Jalen Mills, who is still in the NFL. He wasn't a 5-star all-world, Under Armour All-American recruit. And you've had some guys that have come in that haven't been as highly regarded that have become really good players under Corey Raymond, because I believe he can recruit them, I believe he can pick them, and I believe he can develop them. So you start to look at where we are from a cornerback perspective with this team. And returning right now, it looks like, and of course that's always subject to change, but it looks like you've got Ashton Stamps, P.J. Woodland, and Javian Toviano. Toviano was very highly recruited, hasn't really helped for 2 years. Woodland came in and looked like a guy that was going to turn some heads as the defensive player of the year in the state of Mississippi, and didn't play a ton late in the season this year. And Stamps has won a starting job. Now, I would not look at any of them and project them to go in the first round, as of what I've seen at LSU. But those are the 3 guys you got to kind of work off of from your base. Now, DJ Pickett is one of these dudes. He's Stingley, he's Peterson, that's what he is. And you hope that he's Peterson or Stingley, and not, Kevin Tolliver, who was the number 1 corner in the country, who came in and was a nice player here, but had a cup of coffee with the Bears and wasn't the impact guy that some of those 5-star corners have been coming in. But you bring in DJ Pickett and Aiden Anding in this class, and those guys appear to be really talented dude. Pickett, big time. And then you'll get Jakeem Jackson and Mansour Delane. And I have no way I mentioned Deuce Chestnut and Jarek Bernard-Converse. I don't know which one of those applies to these 2 guys. But again, I trust Corey Raymond. And I was listening to Matt's show after further review yesterday, and he had the host from Locked On Gators on, and he said Jakeem Jackson looks like a dude. He played and held his own as a true freshman at Florida. He was a starter right out of the gate as a sophomore, and then he got hurt. But he looks like a dude. He's got some edge. He's got the size that you're looking for. I think that guy's got potential to be an all-conference player. And that I'll take that for what it's worth. If you tell me that Corey Raymond thought enough of him in high school to bring him into Florida, and now thinks of him enough now to bring him into LSU, I'm sold on that. And then Mansour Delane, hopeful. He started a lot of games, played a lot of football, and accumulated a lot of stats at Virginia Tech. And so you start to look at this group, and If you tell me that the chalk would be that Stamps and Jakeem Jackson are your two corners, but you've got Delane right there waiting in the wings, and then, of course, you've got DJ Pickett, and we feel like freshman corners are generally pretty ready to play when they come with that kind of pedigree. Eli Ricks was ready to play, had a couple pick six as a freshman. Certainly Derek Stingley was ready to play as a freshman. Certainly Patrick Peterson was ready to play as a freshman, and I don't feel like I'm speaking out of school to put DJ Pickett in the category with those guys. It doesn't assure me that he's going to be a freshman All-American and a first-round draft pick in the top 10 in the draft. But that's the type of recruit that you're speaking with him there. And then you've got depth pieces in Woodland and Toviano and Anding. And that's kind of where you are from a cornerback perspective. And to me, it would not be a shock if DJ Pickett and Jakeem Jackson were both top 65 draft picks. Let's just call it that. When their time came. And that's, in the ballpark of what I'm looking for. DJ Pickett might be the third pick in the draft, and that'd be fantastic. But Stamps with another year of seasoning, I thought he played better late in the season than he did early in the season this year. And then what does Woodland grow into? And what does Anding grow into? But that is a total of 7 guys for 3 or 4 corner spots. I'm hopeful that Corey Raymond is flipping that switch. I would have loved to have Cade Phillips, and if they go get another guy in the portal, I'm not going to complain about that for a second, because in this day and age, you got to go out there and cover to win championships. But this feels like it's trending in the right direction. It feels like it's trending towards 5 and 4 high 4-star recruits who come in and play at an all-conference level and move on and are high picks in the NFL and become long-term pros. That's what LSU was built on. Talked to my guy BT about it every single pre- and post-game show, and I'll talk to him about it on this coming pre- and post-game show. But I'm hopeful that LSU is moving very much in the right direction as far as cornerback goes, because I just have not seen the talent level that I'm accustomed to over the last 2-3 seasons at that position. That's got to change, and they've got the right guy at the helm of that position group to change it. So that's my thoughts on DBU kind of returning to form. Let's talk to Sharif coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Every car on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Safety, pretty big deal when you're buying a vehicle. Of course, we like the cars to look nice. We like them to drive comfortably, want all the bells and whistles. But for a lot of folks, what's the safety situation? And at Genesis, I can promise you, you're getting one of the safest cars on the road. The entire line of Genesis, not a single exception, was given the IIHA top safety pick. And a couple of them were top safety picks plus. Every single car in the line of vehicles starts with the same high-end safety features. They take that seriously at Genesis. Get on by and ask their brand ambassadors about those safety features. They'll give you the information. You can get behind the wheel and enjoy that test drive. Some people go, I don't want to go to the dealership to test drive. They can come to you. They'll come to your office. They'll come to your house to get you on that test drive over at Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're at Airline Highway and PQ across from Women's Hospital. Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find them online, genesisofbatonrouge.com, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances.
Welcome back to the Hunt Palmer Show. Here's your host, Hunt, the uniform czar, Palmer. Which uniform do you hate now?
All right, we got to talk some New Orleans stuff with our guy Sharif Ishak from WDSU down there in the Big Easy. The Pelicans have the second worst record in the NBA. The Saints quarterback is hurt and may not come back this year. They got to hire a new coach. It's just not a happy time, and we talk about this with Sharif every single week. I feel like we've got to inject some positivity into the conversation. Sharif, what is positive? What do we feel good about?
3 more games left in the season.
All right.
There you go. You want something positive, and it's over.
All right, we got the report from Ian Rappaport today that's saying that it doesn't feel like Carr is going to come back. Nick Underhill of New Orleans Football kind of said maybe not. He's going to try. But where do you land on whether or not Carr should come back? What the Saints should do in his place for the last 3 games? Kind of what do you see there?
I think you gotta protect your investment, and I think in the long term, I just think that you have to protect him from himself, and you got to protect your draft status. So I want to see more of Spencer Rattler. To be honest with you, I want to see what you have in Spencer Rattler. It's more about Rattler than it is about Derek Carr. I mean, look, they got like a 0.5% chance they're not getting to the playoffs. So I'd want to see more of Spencer Rattler. But he did well. I mean, he did well when he came in the second half. I mean, I thought he was decisive, made some good decisions. They ran some good plays for him. He didn't get sacked. I mean, they ran the ball well, injected the life into the football team. Kind of felt like how Darren Rizzi when he took over for Dennis Allen. So, yeah, I think you don't play him again. There's no way you play him again. You should not play him again.
Why do you think Jake Haener started that game?
I have no idea. I'm in the boat with you. I thought that Rattler should have started the game. Even though I felt very good about it, that maybe Jake get his chance, his shot, to show that what he has. And, times whenever he played, it's like when he came off the bench for Spencer Rattler in that Chargers game, I thought he played all right. During the preseason, he played all right. I thought maybe he would be a little bit better than that, and he wasn't. It was just, even though, there were a few plays here and there that kind of threw him off a little bit. That first drive, and you have the penalties, and plays are getting called back, guys dropping balls, and not all of it is, like Rizzi said after the game, not really all of it is on him, but a good bit is on him. And even he said it was not great from him, especially that interception.
I think you'll see Rattler coming up on Sunday. How big a deal is it for Alvin Kamara to get a 1,000-yard season?
Now that's the one you got to be careful with more than anything. You don't want to make sure that you don't want to really injure that groin or the adductor and really throw him into a surgery like Eric McCoy had on his groin. And have him like dealing with during the off season. I'd be very cautious with him. I'd at least sit him out a game or two and see if you can get him 1,000 yards in the finale or maybe against the Raiders if he's 100%. I mean, look, McCoy was hurt when he came back in that game against the Rams. It looks like he got hurt quickly. I think it was the Rams game. Whatever game he came back for, whether it was the Browns or Rams, I can't remember. It felt like it was a little too soon. I think it was the Browns game after the bye week. So it was a little too soon. They probably should have held off on it and waited. So I'd be careful with him. And I know they want to get him his first ever 1,000-yard season. I believe he hasn't had 1,000 yards yet in his career.
He's never had a 1,000-yard season before, so
yeah,
that's kind of the
50 yards. Yeah, 50 yards away. I mean, I know that's a big goal of his. He'd like to get to 1,000 yards, and he's played with the broken hand and busted up ribs. So I'd at least wait till he's closer to 100%. I would not just throw him out there just to throw him out there in the season that's already lost.
Any other young players that you've thought have played well, whether it's the two tackles, the corners, Brazil? Like, what have you seen from some of the young guys now that the clock's moving towards next year?
I really have been impressed with Brian Brzee. And look, I know he hasn't really played in many games, and he's shown flashes in the last 2 games. Kendra Miller.
Yeah.
I mean, you always ask me about him whenever, like, when is he going to play and if he stays healthy. Look, I mean, the potential once again is there. Kendra Miller is one of those guys that, like, I've really enjoyed watching play, and these last 2 games he looks good. But I would say at the top of the list, and without a doubt, it's Teliese Fuaga of the young guys, and even Trevor Penning. Those 2 guys have played well. I mean, and that's what you need, in the NFL, is 2 solid tackles, and it looks good there so far. And defensively, Brzee, like I said, but I think I need to see a little bit more from your future cornerbacks, Delonte Taylor and Kool-Aid McKinstry. I mean, those are the 2 guys that are more than likely going to be your cornerbacks if they don't bring Paulson Adebo back. If Adebo is not the guy back, those are your 2 guys next year. But, I got to see them more. I see more of them, Monday night in Green Bay and probably nasty conditions, cold conditions against a good quarterback and solid receivers. And I'd like to see how they fare out in those situations against teams like that.
I believe the high in Green Bay on Monday is somewhere around 26, and the sun will be way down by the time they kick off. So who draws that assignment for WSU? I'm assuming not you.
The funny part is I don't think anyone's going to the game from New Orleans. Like, no TV stations are going.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how bad it's gotten. I mean, we had the game on our air because we simulcast Monday Night Football games when it's the Saints on ESPN, but the game got moved to ABC and nobody got mad about it. And we were like, yeah, I guess we're not good. That's fine with me. Green Bay is historic, been there, done that, but it's just like, man, no thank you in December at night.
Yeah, no thank you in a big way on that. I'll be passing as well. All right, so let's talk about the Pels, because I think there's some news coming at some point. They've obviously got the second worst record in the NBA. What do you think is coming here?
I know that you're probably wondering if Willie Green's going to get fired during the season. That is a no, because the players, he has not lost his team within the players. This isn't like a Dennis Allen situation where you started to see, players coming out saying things like there was no connection. The players and coach were not, on the same page. No, it's different in that building. I don't see Willie Green getting fired during the season. After the season, probably going to make a change. That's the question you're asking. And if you're not asking that question, you're asking about Zion.
I'm asking about all the guys they could potentially trade here over the next month.
Trade. Okay. Well, we can go. I think the number 1 candidate is the easiest candidate is Brandon Ingram. Then I would think the number 2 is C.J. McCollum, if they can find the right trade partners for both guys. They've I don't think they just want to trade guys just to trade guys, and you might either see them go off the board, or you might see them do something crazy, Hunt, like try to trade for players and make the team better. But they're not. Griffin and company need to think we need to at least get a young player back. If you're trading both of these guys, at some point you got to get somebody back for this team that, like, either a good 6-man or maybe a contributor that could be a starter and a draft pick. If you're trading CJ and BI, Zion's off the board, you're not trading him at all. So I would say those are the 2 trade candidates. Other than that, I think they'd be, they're set next year.
Why do you say that they're not going to trade Zion? Because that would be a bad move, or because they won't do it?
I just think that, like, no teams are going to send them what they want.
Yeah.
Like I saw Bobby Marks put out that tweet last week to the Golden State Warriors, and it was in return for Wiggins and Pajimski and like a pick it looked like. I was like, say that out loud. Zion for Pajimski, Wiggins, and a pick. I know he hasn't played a lot, but it doesn't make sense, and it sounds silly. And you don't make a trade like that. I don't think David Griffin would do that, considering the fact they have him under contract for a few more years. And he does want to be here. To the contrary of like him not playing and him getting hurt a lot, he wants to be here. And he tried his best during the offseason to avoid getting injured, but it's unfortunate he keeps getting hurt. So, I think, he's going to be part of this franchise for the foreseeable future. Unless something changes, I think he's on this team for the foreseeable future. And I would say BI number one. And CJ is the question mark at number two. But they got to get like at least one player and a couple of draft picks out of each one of those trades. And even if they're like guys who are like coming off the bench and draft picks, because let me remind you, if they're picking in the top 5 like they should, if they continue at this pace, this draft is loaded with players. And this is the type of draft that you want to be picking top 5, top 8.
They're well on their way to doing that at this point with the second worst record in the league. Sharif, we appreciate some time. We'll talk next week.
You got it, Hunt.
Sharif Ishak, WDSU down there in the Big Easy. We'll come back and close it out with some Take It or Leave It on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Make LeBear's Baton Rouge your game day headquarters all winter long. You can watch the games on their giant screen TVs. Would highly recommend you check out doing that. It's a fantastic game watching experience. You can tackle the area's best game day food. I highly recommend you do that as well. They got great food in there at ESPN Bet inside LeBear's, and the drink specials are great as well. Get in all the basketball and football action this winter with Penn Play and ESPN Bet, Penn's online sportsbook that is now live in Louisiana. Score big this season at LeBear's Baton Rouge. However you want to play. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 for help.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Savor game day platters and snacks, plus drink specials at 1717 Kitchen.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show. Hopefully Hunt remembered to bring his laptop charger. Nah, there's no chance.
.104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge, and Citizens Bank and Trust are bringing you the ultimate holiday gift with our Home for the Holiday sweepstakes. Imagine 2025 with your rent or mortgage covered up to $18,000. We're here to make your holidays a whole lot brighter. Just sign up at 1045ESPN.com and you could be living stress-free next year. The winner will be notified on December 20th, that is this Friday.
All right, we're closing up shop here. A little bit, I don't know if disappointing is the right word, but some news out of the transfer portal. LSU will not be getting the services of Florida International. Is it Florida International? Looking. Jacksonville State is where he was. Yeah, okay. Zechariah Poyser committed to Miami. The safety, LSU had him in for a visit. He was actually, I believe he was on campus today. 6'2", 190-pound safety. Got 3 years of eligibility remaining, and he will be headed to the U to play in South Florida. So LSU still in the looking for some help at safety in the transfer portal. I don't see any other breaking news at this point, so I guess we can close things out with a little take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it.
Alrighty, first one here. High school junior Blades Brown, the top-ranked golfer in the class of 2026, announced Tuesday that he's turning pro. Brown, of course, we talked about him a little bit last year. He played in a PGA event, finished tied for 26th in that one. And he will not play college golf and will make his PGA Tour debut at the American Express in January. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it. I don't have all the information here, but I don't know if it's the time to force it when you're a junior in high school. I don't know how far he hits it. I'm sure he's a heck of a player, but I would probably finish out the high school career there and then maybe take a year in college where you're not really trying to force the issue. You can earn a lot of great stuff in the college game before you get into a professional game. I think at this point he's going to either have to rely on sponsors exemptions or to get into whatever he's going to play on the Corn Ferry.
Yeah, he's got sponsors exemptions. I think that's probably part of the reason why. I know it says in the article.
But he's going to have to go to the Corn Ferry, and I realize that not everybody's grinding like what 17-year-old's path to the PGA Tour is, and that's probably not what everybody's favorite thing to listen to is, but I feel like it's so hard to do. We gave that story last week about the guy, or yesterday, about the guy who came up one shot short in the Corn Ferry season and then one shot short at Q School. And now Q School's over, so I'm not sure what the future holds, so I can't speak exactly to it. But it feels like you're really forcing the issue here and you don't have to. That's a stressful existence to travel as much as you have to get it done when you could just develop in a comfortable cocoon of high school and a college program. So we'll see.
All right, newly minted Chicago Cubs outfielder Kyle Tucker had a media session about an hour or so ago, and when asked about whether or not he would consider a contract extension with the Cubs before he becomes a free agent in November, he said he would be open for any conversation about that. Take it or leave it.
Take it.
I'll take it.
Get him signed.
They're not going to sign
$400 million. Just write the check.
They're just not going to do it.
Just do it.
They're cheap. You told me that yourself.
I don't like that. Just figure it out.
I don't either.
Pay some money. They're all spooked because we gave Hayward $1 billion and he was the worst hitter in the league. This guy's better than Jason Hayward. Just give him the money.
But we were talking about this before. I mean, I said, why not move Bellinger to first and Michael Bush can just, he can go find another team. Put Bellinger
find another
at first.
team. He's under contract.
Okay, we'll trade him. But you said they're cheap. So,
they are cheap.
Okay.
It makes me very sad. I don't like cheap owners. I like owners that spend $1 billion.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's the way you're supposed to do things.
It is.
But the Cubs don't. We just run a tight ship. The Cubs are not a top 10 payroll in baseball. That is an embarrassment.
It is. Our last one here. the NBA will be adopting a new format for the All-Star game in February.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this.
There will be 4 8-player teams.
Okay.
3 will consist of All-Star selections, and the 4th will be the Rising Stars champion. So I think there will be 2 Rising Stars teams that play each other.
Okay.
Whoever wins out of that will be the 4th team in this 4-team playoff format. And Charles Barkley, Shaq, and Kenny Smith will draft and manage the 3 NBA teams, while Candace Parker manages the Rising Stars team. The games will be the first to reach 40 points in a 4-team playoff format, as I said. Take it or leave it.
Is there any money involved?
I think so. I don't.
Because why would we play harder in a 4-team tournament than we do in the actual game?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't remember.
If we're trying to play hard, I feel like you got to put money in it, and I don't know how much money you would have to put in it to make guys care.
Here we go. The 4 teams will be competing for a prize pool of only $1.8 million. Each player on the championship-winning team receives $125,000.
Okay.
Each
you've
player,
said enough.
Yeah, that's all you probably need to hear.
You've said enough.
Yeah.
$125,000.
That's like a couple of pennies to most
That's
of these guys.
nothing to
Almost
these guys.
all of the all-star players make that in a week.
Oh, in a game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a joke. Yeah, that's not going to work. Adam Silver's struggling a little bit. I saw a Colin Cowherd reel where viewership's down 48% over the last 10 years, and Colin said his solution to it was to paint the courts neon. I don't know. I don't know how you do it. I saw some talk around. Bill Simmons had this guy who's a NBA stats guy on, and they were talking about the 3-point line and saying that maybe they should do something with the 3-point line, either move it back or get rid of the corner. There was some wild stuff, but just the fact that the game now is everybody shoots 53s a game. I'm not the target. Maybe I am with the NBA because I don't watch it anymore, but I don't know why we have to jack up sports. We didn't do this for decades, and now we're trying to change the rules for everything.
Well, the NBA is a different case because the strategy for the game has changed so substantially.
So is baseball. Power pitching, strikeout all the time. That's all. Football, they throw it on every play now.
But honestly, I think the MLB thing is probably more exciting with the way it's changed. But yeah.
That's probably run its course. I just don't know why we have to change everything all the time to try to get 12-year-olds to watch. But I guess money rules everything. We can't just do things the way we did them for a long time. Either way, we're done. Matt's going to drive you home. Back tomorrow, same time, same place, with a Wednesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your number